were looking at it from this perspective, hey, there's a chance they could be the third team in the ACC. Yeah, that's the way that it is. They could be the third team in the ACC. Then not so much. It ended up not working out very well for them. I've got a couple of sound clips I want to play you from the post-game press conferences. The first we'll do is from Coach Brad Brownell, who talked a little bit about what ended up messing up the Tigers as they fall by 10. And it comes down to they just didn't shoot the ball very well. They were led by Alex Hemingway with 11 and Alamir Dawes with 11 points apiece, but only putting up 54 points, which was just not the recipe for success. And you can make the argument that it was from for a lot of it had to do with the Syracuse defense. But a couple of quick comments here from Coach Brad Brownell.
New York. Coach Brad Brownell says Clemson got done in by poor two.
Exactly. My clip's a little dated. Hold on a second. There we go.
More shots than this. You got to be more efficient. And we just couldn't do that today. A lot of that credit to Syracuse. I thought those kids played with great energy. This was a huge game for them. This was just a game where we didn't play quite well enough. I mean, we didn't play well enough. Missed a lot of shots that are makeable shots, and you can't go 10 for 30 from 12 or 15 feet in. You're not going to win games doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point there from Coach Brad Brownell and the Clemson Tigers. Well, you can't. They just didn't shoot the ball very well at all. Is basically what it boiled down to. So with that, how did that come about? And on the line, and hopefully that will get us going over there. But the basketball team fall short last night. Just kind of sad, to be honest with you. You expected much more out of them, and you just didn't quite get it. 803 978 1832 803 978 1832 is the number to call. If you want to join us here on the rundown of Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart. Me here on the iHeart Radio app, as well as online. Folks watching on the Fox Sports Radio Facebook page, you can check us out there as well. But Clemson game yesterday, Clemson falls by 10. Interesting comment from Coach Boeheim right after the game. Pretty funny stuff here from Coach Boeheim. Got kind of called out about several different things here. And one of them was, some player personnel issues. Let's get these comments from Coach Boeheim from Syracuse.
Never played basketball. I'm 5'2".
Coach Boeheim there, taking a little bit of the water there as he bashes the reporter who questioned him about playing a young player. So yeah, that's not quite what you want there. But Coach Boeheim is old enough now that he can get away with whatever he wants. So there's that. If you want to call in and talk about Clemson basketball getting themselves beaten up yesterday, because that's kind of how it looked, and their your prognosis for the rest of the season, they play Pittsburgh on Saturday. Pittsburgh's not a very good team right now. We'll have to see how they bounce back from that. You do have Clemson women's hoops tonight. They play in Greensboro against Notre Dame, a team they beat by 23 earlier in the season. We'll see how the Lady Tigers do there. The Gamecock basketball team tomorrow night. The women's basketball team plays the winner of Mizzou and Alabama tonight. They play them tomorrow. Alabama and Mizzou play tonight to see who plays them. So there's that for you this afternoon. We're doing NFL draft talk later with Tyler Crowder. I did have an interesting story I wanted to throw out there today at the start of the program. You know, we've had so many different things happen with COVID-19 as far as on the college front. A story on ProFootballScoop.com kind of caught my eye here earlier this morning. And it's basically the state of Kentucky in the Senate passed a bill by unanimous vote, 36-0, that will allow high school seniors to stay for another year of school and play sports. So if you're in high school and this year was affected by COVID, the state of Kentucky is saying, hey, it's all right. You can come back for one more season, even after your time is up. Here's my thing with all that. I like the idea of trying to meet the students halfway, but let's be honest about something here. When you look at a high school senior compared to an underclassman, and you see just the difference in the body types, they're going to have one more year. Oh man, I don't know how that's going to work. But my thing I want to ask you today is, do you think that South Carolina should follow suit? Should young folks get another year in high school to play sports where they could be basically a super senior? How is that going to work? Some of the things to ask with what classes will these seniors take? I mean, they're not just going to play sports, right? I'm serious. It's interesting. Does, that it helps? So it hurts on the depth chart front on if you're a sophomore looking to move up, you're not going to beat out a super senior. But if you're a senior and your year was affected, I can understand that. Fireball with a great point online. No 19 versus a 14-year-old. Yeah, that's not going to work. But the idea of having super seniors, and in some ways it's, you want to be fair to the seniors that were there, but, I hate using the term, but these are unprecedented times, ladies and gentlemen. It's kind of how you have to look at it. Hey, sorry that happened to you, but maybe it's time to move on. Now, there's going to be some folks, especially if their seasons were canceled, which has happened across a good piece of the country, that they may be out of a college scholarship, etc. I always believe that the cream of the crop rises to the top. You've heard that phrase before. I truly believe that. I think that if you're a good player, someone will eventually find you. And as long as you keep working hard and grinding at it, if you have enough talent, you'll get there. A perfect example of this was Mac Jones. Mac Jones, everybody told him, hey, you should transfer and you should do this and leave Alabama and all that. Mac Jones stuck with it, ended up finishing 4th in the Heisman rankings. So there's that to think about. The idea of just sticking with it and going from there. I know people are going to say, but how do they stick with it outside of college? Well, if you're right there on the cusp There are junior colleges you could do stuff with. These coaches are going to find you. They really are. But that's my question for you folks today. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. You're right about that. The Macho Man Randy Savage did used to say that, except he had like the little itty bitty cup of creamer, which was kind of funny. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you want to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Should high school seniors be given an extra year? Should they be super seniors? 803-978-1832. We're going to talk NFL draft later. There was like 4 or 5 Gamecock fans in my feed this morning that were posting someone had a mock draft where they put the BYU quarterback over Trevor Lawrence. Now, I look at that and I laugh because it's nothing against the BYU quarterback, but I think the people that are putting that out there are just trying to get people to acknowledge their existence. You know, pretty much, I think it's 99% of everything I've seen is showing that Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback prospect in the draft. In fact, the debate should be over who's going to be the second quarterback taken. Is it going to be Justin Fields or the quarterback from BYU? That's the debate here. Should we have that? That's kind of the way that you should be looking at it. Not from a perspective of, I think everyone's chasing Trevor Lawrence. I really believe that. So we'll talk with Tyler Crowder a little bit about that later on. Also, something that was interesting too, 247 Sports ranked the 25 best college football facilities, and where some of the teams that are on this list they're there, but you kind of look at it from this perspective of how is that team pouring all that money into football, and is eventually that going to pay off? So yeah, there's that today. We'll check into that too. Also, tomorrow, don't forget, we'll look ahead to the weekend baseball series. Clemson at home with Notre Dame. South Carolina is at home with Mercer. The Gamecocks start SEC play next week. It's weird that the two major conferences start at different times. The ACC ends up with like an extra, I call it a bye weekend where they can schedule someone out of conference towards the end of the season in May. That's an interesting thing too. So we'll keep track of that later on. We'll take your calls on should the high schools allow an extra year of eligibility for players. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That is the number to call. If you want to join us here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. As I was saying earlier, podcast will be up to date about 5:00. And there are other little things we're going to get into today, including the NFL draft talk with Tyler Crowder and several other little things that have kind of the Zach Wilson thing is very interesting to me, where people are talking about him being a better prospect than Trevor Lawrence. That's pretty interesting. JW Online says Tennessee can't possibly get any worse. Number 2 QB and hearing Mac Jones to the Pats. Yeah. That would be an interesting spot for him. And we'll see. I mean, there are people that are saying Mac Jones is, what was it? Tua Tagovailoa said he was just a nimble. What was it? I can't remember, but high praise from Tua Tagovailoa about Mac Jones. So we'll see where he ends up. All right, take a quick break and we come back. We'll have more for you here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I don't know what's going on with my sound, man. My engineer's in here. It's supposed to be like a plug and play type thing, and I'm sorry you guys have to deal with that, but I will get it fixed, I assure you. They're making me angry with all this. Our engineering department is silly.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Attention all women who have been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Johnson & Johnson's baby powder and shower-to-shower talcum products have been linked to ovarian cancer. In February and May 2016, Johnson & Johnson was ordered to pay $72 million and $55 million by two juries to two women who contracted ovarian cancer after years of using talcum baby powder products. If you or a family member has been diagnosed with ovarian cancer and used talcum powder prior to the diagnosis, call Talcum Powder Help now today at 800-833-0112. You may be entitled to substantial compensation. The consultation is free and you'll pay nothing unless there is a recovery in your favor. Don't fight this alone. If you or a loved one used talcum baby powder-based products before being diagnosed or died from ovarian cancer, call Talcum Powder Help now at 800-833-0112. 800-833-0112.
Thank God I don't have ovaries. Oh my goodness, Brock, what's up with that? Thank you, James. Oh, it was messed up earlier, so we worked it out. Welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Could the NFL be changing their overtime policy? The Baltimore Ravens have introduced a different concept known as spot and choose. So basically what happens is one team picks the spot of the ball to start overtime. The other chooses whether to play offense or defense. So if one team picks, say, the offense's own 20-yard line, the opponent would then choose whether to play offense from their own 20 or to play defense with the other team having the ball on its own 20. According to the report, it would minimize greatly the impact of the coin toss. The coin toss would be used only to give the team that wins the toss the right to pick the spot of the ball along with the end zone to be defended or to choose offense or defense. That says that would make teams rely much more on strategy rather than simple luck of the coin toss. I don't know. I don't understand what, I mean, is overtime broken in the NFL? Is that where we're going now? Are they afraid people are going to screw up the coin toss? That's kind of people probably said the same thing when the NBA decided, hey, we're going to have the 3-point shot. Maybe there's some issues with that. I don't know. But it would, some people are saying it would require teams to strategize based on strengths and weaknesses. Okay. I don't know if we need to change that or not. I think they're going to get to a point, though, where from just a safety standpoint, there's a lot of folks that are talking about making it more difficult to have kickoff returns because of, lots of people get injured in kickoff returns and cutting down on some of that. And I think that takes away from a piece of the game too, but I guess I can understand it if you're going to cut down concussions by, they say 30% at some point, if you can eliminate the kickoff play. So maybe that. James fires off online. That sounds stupid. I think so, but you never know until they actually implement it. They may do it in some preseason games. Who knows? It seems like they're always trying to change something. We'll see how that works out for them. But I don't like the idea of just changing things just to change things. How does it benefit you? You know what I'm saying? So I don't even know where to go with all that. Hey, we're going to change the way we do overtime. Okay. So one other note from the NFL. Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger has been picked up by the team. He's taking a $5 million pay cut. And here's his release. And it sounds like it's dripping with sarcasm. It's my great honor to be a Pittsburgh Steeler and give all for this organization. I'm grateful to be at this stage of my career and more than happy to adjust my contract in a way that best helps the team to address other players who are so vital to our success. I love this game and love to compete, and I believe in this team and my ability to deliver when called upon. It all starts with great preparation, and I'm so ready to go. That's I mean, I think that's sarcastic. I think it came across that way. Here's a thought. Just tweet out or send the message out. Proud to be back with the Steelers, ready to get the season underway, and then go about your merry way. He's taking a $5 million pay cut to stay with the Steelers, and that's the best. It's my greatest honor to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Oh, goodness. 803-978-1832. Tyler Crowder joins us in a little bit to talk about the NFL draft. Will the Steelers take another quarterback, or do they like the guy they have backing him up now? So, yeah, we can get into that as well. And several other little things here on the rundown as we're getting into the heart of basketball season. So, next week we're going to have a lot more talk about basketball and how I think the brackets are going to shape up, who I think is going to win the conference titles. Yeah, we're going to have all of that next week. Brandon says he saw Ben Roethlisberger play in his last college game, the 2003 GMAC Bowl in Alabama, when he played for Miami of Ohio. They beat Louisville in that game. Yeah, Roethlisberger was just a big guy. And, once you take the shots that he's taken, though, it makes you wonder how many of those shots you can take. Brock with a great point. Why can't the NFL do OT the way the colleges do? That's a great point, Brock. It should be. I like the idea of having some uniformity across the board, but that's not going to happen. That would make too much sense. 803-978-1832. Do you like the idea of the new NFL's proposed by the Baltimore Ravens, where you pick the spot and then they can determine if they're going to play offense or defense? I mean, I guess there's several ways to look at it. Can you pick the spot for them to start on, say, the 5? Or better yet, if I got a great defense, I want you to start on the 1. Now, they can turn around and say, we want you to play offense. I don't know. I'd be running some suicide blitzes or something trying to get a safety. I don't know. I'm thinking like I'm a Madden football player here, though. That's not going to win me very many games in the NFL, to say the least. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call to join us here on the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. If you would like to check us out today, we're doing NFL draft talk in just a little bit with Tyler Crowder. One other NFL note before we head to that: the Seahawks are entertaining Russell Wilson trade conversations. We'll get into that momentarily. Let's go out to the phones. And welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon. Hello. Welcome to the rundown. Good afternoon. All right. Well, they can call us back. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. Apparently, Russell Wilson may be in the trade things here. We'll see how that goes. Diana Rossini from ESPN said that Wilson has not gotten to the point of demanding a trade yet. However, she added the Seahawks have both made and fielded calls about potential Russell Wilson trades. How do you go about, hey, we want to trade our franchise quarterback? I've never been like the biggest fan of maybe it's because I don't get to see him play a lot, but I mean, he is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. You could say top 8, top 7, whatever. And you're going to trade away that guy. I mean, he is a franchise quarterback. We'll see about that. JW says the NFL is the National Flag Football League. We pay millions to hear players cry. Yeah, there's that too. There's definitely a sentiment of that too. If you're a Houston fan or a Seattle fan, you're thinking, man, the cornerstone of our franchise is gone, in theory. Very few teams win without that quarterback. So we'll see how that works out and where will he go. In the offseason, you could have, in theory, Deshaun Watson somewhere else, Russell Wilson somewhere else. And then people are calling one of the best quarterback prospects in the past 10 years, Trevor Lawrence, coming into the league, you could have 3 brand new quarterbacks in different spots. That could be interesting as the NFL heads into their season. It's like there is no off season in the NFL, by the way. It seems like I've always got something to talk about there. Of course, we could talk about the Clemson basketball game yesterday, how they fell flat. I love how, the big thing was, they were undefeated in February, and then not so much. Not so much. You'd rather be undefeated in March. February doesn't mean anything. David says the Ravens won Super Bowls with Flacco and Dilfer. Yeah, but that's kind of like the exception. That's like having a prom queen date, but she smells bad. It's kind of the way I look at it. She may be beautiful, but she probably stinks. That's kind of how I feel about the idea of those two getting Super Bowl rings. They should have returned them. You'd have done better if you'd have went with Brad Johnson. He was I think he was better than those two. 803-978-1832. NFL Draft Talk when we come back here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Brock. Pretty and stink. That's like, maybe it's just me, but like, I don't know. That's kind of the perfect way to look at it. Having that quarterback that's great, but she smells bad. Oh.
Shipments arriving daily. You don't have to wait till spring. Shop online today at Carolina.
Hey, my wife sent me this. She says that should be my next tattoo. That's like the Tennessee tattoo. You guys see that? That is the ultimate Tennessee tattoo. Wow, that's bad. Let's get Tyler Crowder on the line here.
It's Colin Coward. Here's what's trending on the iHeart Sports Network, presented by Mercedes-AMG.
Greg Olson and Thomas Davis are planning to retire as Panthers. The longtime Carolina Stars will sign one-day contracts together next week to make it official. The Hurricanes will try to keep pace with Central Division co-leader Tampa Bay tonight when they host Detroit. And June 2nd, it'll be known as Lou Gehrig Day in Major League Baseball. The league set to honor the Yankees legend by raising money and awareness for ALS efforts. I'm Scott Davidson.
At Mercedes-AMG, giving 110% isn't just possible.
You ready, buddy?
They squeeze every last drop of performance out of every last coupe, sedan, roadster, and SUV. Visit MBUSA.com/AMG. Mercedes-AMG, driving performance.
I'm going to tweet this out.
FoxSportsRadio1400.com/Midlands.
Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. Time to talk a little bit about the NFL Draft as we welcome in the host of Kicking It with Crowder. Tyler Crowder joins us. Tyler, what's up, my friend?
What's up, Rob? How you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you joining the show today, and I have to ask you from the rip here. There are a couple of analysts out there that are saying that maybe Zach Wilson is a safer pick overall at the top of the draft over Trevor Lawrence. Have these people lost their minds, or is there some validity to that?
I mean, I'm a real big Zach Wilson guy. I actually did a piece on him back in November before a lot of the hype was coming out on him. But it's still Trevor Lawrence 1, and then Zach Wilson's actually my number 2 quarterback, and then I have Justin Fields at 3. So that's kind of how I see it right now. I think Zach Wilson has the potential to be a really good NFL quarterback. Reminds me a lot of a Drew Lock coming out of Missouri a few years ago. Drew Lock had a decent NFL career, but I think Zach Wilson is going to, be a little bit better than Drew Lock. I think he has that Josh Allen, Watson type, that's the potential he could be. But this NFL is so hit or miss. It's all about where you go. And he could be going to the New York Jets at 2. Another team could be trading up for Wilson, so you're not sure. Trevor Lawrence, I'm a little bit more, I know what he is. I know what he's going to be in the league. I think he's going to be a top 10, top 5 quarterback at some point in his career. I think he's a safe pick. And, he has all the measurables. He's been groomed for this since he was 14 years old. I mean, the guy took over a Cartersville team in Georgia as a freshman and never looked back. And I think Trevor Lawrence has every tool in the toolbook, and I think he's going to do well in the NFL. I think him and Urban Meyer are a nice pairing there down in Jacksonville. So, yes, I see some of the smoke screens, and normally where there is smoke, there's fire. But at the end of the day, I really feel like Trevor Lawrence is the top player in the draft, and he's also the top quarterback in the draft. And Zach Wilson, not a knock on Zach Wilson at all because he's a great quarterback, but Lawrence is my number one guy.
Yeah, I agree, and I see that stuff, and I'm like, how does that? And you wonder if some of that's being floated by some teams too, and maybe you never know. We shall see. I think it's pretty much lock, stock, and done that Lawrence is going to be the first pick taken overall. If Jacksonville backs away from that, that has the potential to. If they move on and they take Zach Wilson, that's going to be a decision that's going to define someone's career. Either it blows up in their face or it completely has to work.
Yeah, and it reminds me, Rob, of a lot of the '98. I was young when this happened, but I watched it. I can remember Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf. Peyton Manning was the 4-year guy in Tennessee, was supposed to be the number 1 pick for years. And then Ryan Leaf, comes kind of out of, he had a great career in college, but it reminds me a little bit of that situation where, you really did have some teams that liked Leaf over Manning. But at the end of the day, the Colts were crazy if they took Leaf over Manning, and we see how that turned out. So, that's just something to compare it to.
An even later example would be, and a team that did it was the Chicago Bears. They had the opportunity to take Deshaun Watson, who, was proven to be a winner and can do all kinds of great stuff. And they went with Mitch Trubisky. And that's something that's affecting their franchise right now. Years later. Yeah. So, it's one of those type things. But I think general managers, when they just get it set in their head, hey, I'm taking this guy, even if someone comes to them and says, this is a much better pick, they're going to go with the guy that I guess they feel in their gut they should go with.
Yeah, and Trevor Lawrence has put it all on tape too. He's got a lot of tools, and not only is he, I think he's going to be a great leader. He's going to be able to run in this NFL. I think that Trevor Lawrence really does compare to a guy like Josh Allen coming out of Wyoming. He's got a big arm. He can run a little bit. Big guy, big frame. That's kind of who Lawrence does remind me of. Even in the draft evaluations a couple of years ago with how I looked at Josh Allen. I had Josh Allen as the number 2 quarterback coming out that year. And that draft class is a class that will look at Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen. Is this a class that's going to be compared to something like that? Because you got 5 guys who could possibly go in the top 16 to 20 picks. I really feel like that, with also Trey Lance and Mac Jones being thrown in there. So we'll see what happens. A lot of talk has been, hey, there could be 3 or 4 quarterbacks go top 4 or 5 picks. And I just think that this is a much deeper draft than that at other positions. And if you're able to get a guy like Penny Sewell at 6, or you're able to get a guy like Micah Parsons or Patrick Surtain or some of these guys who are going to drop, or Kyle Pitts, this draft is awesome. I like this draft a lot. I think it's kind of a little bit top heavier than last year. I think last year's class is a little deeper, but I think this year has a lot of star power here at the top.
Brandon online asks, who do you think the Panthers are going to take at the number 8 pick?
Well, the Panthers, I really feel like they're looking at a quarterback at 8. Now, if they stay at 8, that's the question. I feel like they could move up in the draft, possibly to 3 with Miami. I don't think they'll trade with the Falcons, but Falcons at 4, Bengals at 5. I mean, they could definitely possibly move up and get their guy, a Justin Fields type player. Also, Matt Rule. He built the defense last year with Derek Brown. He could go on the defensive side of the ball. Maybe a shutdown corner in Surtain or Fairley, but I think they try to go quarterback, honestly, with Carolina. That's who I've had them linked to in my mock draft. But you could see them go, if the quarterback's not there, I feel like they probably need to go after, they got Brian Burns, they got Derek Brown on the front. Maybe, they could possibly go after a Michael Parsons, the linebacker, or get one of these shutdown corners in Surtain or Fairley.
You mentioned quarterbacks. Is this the year that the Atlanta Falcons draft the guy that's going to replace Matt Ryan?
Oh man, you got enough time, Rob?
No, I mean, not to draw it out, but I mean, he's getting up there in age. He's still effective, but I mean, I think it's time that you may want to get somebody in so they can actually be groomed to take over that starting spot. I don't think that's me bashing Matt Ryan. I just think that
no.
You have to do that in the NFL now.
It's a question. It's a legitimate question, and I get the question. I get, hey, are you ever going to be here at 4 again? You ever going to be in the top 5 to get a quarterback? Are you? We haven't been there in 12, 13 years. The Atlanta Falcons. Of course, I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan. Matt Ryan, thrown for 4,000 yards, 9 straight years. Won the MVP in 16. Has regressed a little bit in 19 and 20 from what he did in 16, 17, 18. But at the same time, this Atlanta Falcons team and roster has so many holes. So if you're able to really get this number 4 pickup, and people think you're going quarterback there at 4, this is what I think the Atlanta Falcons are doing. I think they're trying to get as much value as possible for this number 4 pick. I think you could see them go anywhere from trading back a few spots at 7 with Detroit to anywhere with San Francisco at 12. I don't think they want to go past 12. And if you're able to get a next year's first round pick and possibly some draft capital in a deep draft, and then maybe next year you look at quarterback. Here's the thing: quarterbacks, you can always draft a quarterback. You don't always have to get them here that early. But if Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith feel like they have their guy at number 4, I'm perfectly fine with the Atlanta Falcons taking a quarterback at 4. But in my mind, I feel like with what the roster is, this team this isn't a Packers situation when they drafted Jordan Love last year. This isn't a Kansas City situation when they drafted Pat Mahomes. Both those teams were coming off, playoff appearances. This Falcons roster it needs a lot of work. Could use work on the defensive line, the offensive line, the secondary. Could get another linebacker in there, or the running back situation. So it's a lot more than just one thing for me. So Rob, personally, what I would do, I would try to trade back into that 7 to 12 range and get some draft capital, and then get the best player on the board that you feel like is there. But I'm a Patrick Surtain, Micah Parsons guy, Penny Sewell possibly to protect Matt Ryan, a great offensive lineman out of Oregon. One of those 3 guys is who I would go after. Just depends on what happens in the draft. But if Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith feel like, hey, they get their guy, Trey Lance is their guy, Justin Fields their guy, I'm perfectly fine with it. I would not trade up for a quarterback. I would only trade down, honestly, in this draft. Try to stay in that 7 to 12 range and look for that to happen possibly. Because this roster needs a lot of TLC.
That's true, man. And I tell you what, I got one more question for Tyler Crowder, host of Kicking It with Crowder. You can check out his show as he records tonight. Find him on Twitter at Kicking It with Crow, and lots of great NFL type stuff that you might learn something listening to Tyler's show. My final thing for you today is that Devonta Smith won the Heisman Trophy, but it seems like he's kind of falling down on some draft boards, and a lot of it, they say, is because of his size. Do you think that he's going to fall far, or is that just talk?
I mean, I get the questions, but the guy's just so productive. Like what he puts out there on tape, the guy's always open, and he's very crafty with what he does. He's really good off the line. Reminds me of a lot of a Devontae Adams type guy off the line of scrimmage, not as a wide receiver, but just being able to get out of his breaks and not really have to be physical with his hands. He just does it all with his feet. I have Jahmyr Chase as my number 1 wide receiver, Rob. I got Devontae Smith as my number 2 wide receiver. Physicality, Jahmyr Chase, I don't know if you've seen a picture. I mean, the guy is like jacked right now. He's been working out really hard the last 6 months, and he's going to really put up numbers at his pro day in the 40 and things like that. And then if you look at his 19 tape, he sat out this year. I mean, he put it all out there with Joe Burrow in 19. So these 2 receivers are going to be compared for a long time. I don't have them I think I have Jahmyr Chase as like my number 4 overall prospect, and I have Devontae Smith as like my number 7. So it's not a huge, but I would go Chase and then Smith, but I feel like Smith could go anywhere from 3 to Miami, or he could go to the Eagles at 6, Detroit at 7. I mean, you can see Smith go anywhere. I feel like he's a top 10 to 15 pick for sure, though.
Tyler Crowder, host of Kicking It with Crowder, joining us. Tyler, man, thanks for talking a little NFL draft with us today, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Rob. I appreciate it, man. Till next time.
There you go, buddy. Thanks a lot. Tyler talking a little NFL with us. We'll take a quick break. When we'll come back, we'll wrap up the Thursday edition of The Rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Man, y'all killing me over there talking about donuts. Y'all know I'm a chunky fool. You guys are great. Man, my first year of college, I went to Spartanburg Methodist, and they had like this thing called ICQ, which was like a way to chat with people. I found a bunch of girls that like went to Converse College, and I remember like the one girl's like, "Yeah, you should come over and hang out with us or whatever." So I go over there. No, we didn't delete your comment. Nobody deleted your comment there. I go over there. We go to walk out on the hall, and it's like the woman screamed. The woman I was with screams, "Man on the hall!" And all these girls like look out their doors, like, "Who is this guy?" Oh man, you guys are funny talking about donut stuff. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I don't delete comments unless you say some racial stuff. You know, I don't put up with the whole racial nonsense. We don't need that. But other than that, I will you pretty much comment whatever you want. It's not going to bother me. That is funny though. Y'all over there talking donuts. Hilarious. I've put the Patreon in the link, so stop with that nonsense, Tom. I tweeted out the picture. Ooh, y'all hit below the belt there, USC Insider. That's funny. I tweeted out that picture, by the way, of that tattoo. That's pretty funny. Oh, I got a story that just broke a little bit ago. We'll talk about this in a second. Yeah, well, it's the last election cycle was just brutal, man. People that were like normally were friends just weren't getting along. Yeah, it's a mess. I promise you, I'll put the Patreon link in the description tomorrow there, Tom.
Fox Sports Radio 1400. Online at foxsportsradio1400.com. On your phone with the iHeartRadio app and on hundreds of devices like Alexa, Google Home, Xbox, and Sonos, an iHeartRadio station.
Welcome back to the Rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. USA Today reports former LSU football coach Les Miles was accused of texting female students, taking them to his condo alone, making them feel uncomfortable, and on at least one occasion, kissing a student, according to an internal investigative report released by the university. And he was banned from contacting female students after the 2013 probe. So apparently they had to sit him down and give him a talking to and telling him, hey, don't talk to female students. I don't know exactly what all happened there. And then here's the big thing. We've only got the one side of it. And the report, of course, this was released by LSU. So this comes from the university. And if there is something in there that could bring a lawsuit towards them, they're not going to have it. You have to think that they did their absolute best on this investigation before they released this out there. Suggested they go to a hotel after telling her he could help her career. So let's look at it from this perspective. You're 50-year-old coach. You're telling a 19, 20-year-old college kid, I'm going to kiss you. You're going to come to my hotel room and I can help your career. That is some creeper type stuff there. Now, we don't have Les Miles' side of the story. All we have is what LSU put out there. It was done by the law firm Taylor Porter on behalf of LSU, and did not find that Miles had sexual relationships with any other women, but it found his behavior was inappropriate. Miles strongly denied kissing the girl. According to the report, he said that he did nothing wrong and was simply mentoring young women of the university. Okay. This is not the kind of thing that you look at and, you're like, wow. Not that this matters anyway, because he's at Kansas now, and Kansas is terrible. I don't know if they're going to fire him or not. They might. But in our society today, when stuff like this comes out, trust me, the only thing people are going to remember is that the report was released by LSU, and this is what they said about Les Miles. Now, if Les Miles moves somewhere else, this is going to follow him. And not quite what you want. Now, of course, LSU, there's still rumblings down there. There's going to be more investigations of stuff involving Darius Geis and things like that. We'll see how that comes out. But another quote from the story, as the report concludes, the allegations that Coach Miles attempted to kiss the woman was supported by no evidence and warranted no discipline. We do not believe under existing law and the terms of the contract, there is cause to discipline and or terminate Coach Miles, according to the report. So they said they basically had no proof. It was his word against the student, and there wasn't enough there for them to terminate his account. It did say if Miles repeated the behavior, the school said in the letter, he would lose his job and violate his contract. Yeah. I laugh, but when you see stuff like this, it's just, oh man. He just looks creepy. Just looks creepy altogether. That's what Tom says online. Les Miles is like a creepy middle school PE teacher. Okay, then. All right, tomorrow on the rundown, full breakdown of the baseball series. We'll talk a little hoops as well. Have a nice Friday show. Our intern, Mr. Savage, college football, is supposed to join us with his bevy of college football knowledge. We'll bring him into the mix. And maybe he can enlighten us on some of this Les Miles stuff. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. One of the interesting things about this, in January of 2013, LSU gave him a 2-year contract extension. So right in the heart of this, he's getting a contract extension from LSU. That's kind of interesting too. I don't know. Put 2 and 2 together. All right, don't forget, Teddy Hefner's on in the morning from 9 to noon. Teddy's got all kinds of good stuff, man. He had Ray Tanner, the athletic director, on the other day from South Carolina. So follow Teddy. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Rob Sounds Good. I just tweeted out a picture of a tattoo that my wife says I should get, but I think it's something that a Tennessee football player should get. You can find that on my Twitter. It's at Rob Sounds Good. JW says he's a typical grass eater, referring to Les Miles eating grass. Apparently, he liked the grass better at LSU. He's not done that at Kansas yet, or at least I haven't seen it yet. I don't know. You never know when it comes to that kind of thing. Lawton Swan from Clemson Sports Talk is next. He is the czar of Clemson Sports.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
You can find him on Twitter at Clemson Sports. ClemsonSportsTalk.com is the website. He'll have everything for you under the sun. A little more talk on the Clemson basketball game and his thoughts on it. And, all folks are welcome to Clemson Sports Talk. Be sure to check that out. Podcast for this show will be up at 5 o'clock this afternoon. You can download and listen to the podcast pretty much whenever you want. I appreciate the folks watching on Facebook, YouTube, all of those folks watching today. We really, really appreciate it. And we will talk to you tomorrow on The Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. You guys are great, man. We'll see you guys later on. Thank you, guys.